get the show started.
Now, let's get into the lightning round, guys. We're just going to give you a couple quick topics here. Tommy's going to give you a quick rundown. What do you think about TJ Dillashaw taking on Sandhagen here in the future? Is TJ a little bit too old to be taking on these top contenders, or do you think he's still got it? Sitting out for a couple of years, maybe some ring rust. He's already, I believe, like 36. I just, where do you see this? Do you think Sandhagen's too much of a young stud now, or does Dillashaw still got it in the tank?
As far as just that topic, my first answer would be yes. I think TJ Dillashaw still has it. I think he's a young 36, 37, wherever he's at. He's like Dominic Cruz, you know, a little bit less wear and tear because there hasn't been as many. There's been gaps in some of the bouts. But yeah, I think he definitely still is a contender. As far as Sandhagen goes, I don't know if Sandhagen will be looking for that fight. He might be looking for the belt.
I believe this fight's already booked.
Did they book that fight?
Yeah, ESPN 24. We should have Sandhagen, Dillashaw, and I believe the winner of this. Well, the belt is in Tango. That's another topic we can quickly cover.
I know. It's great.
So this fight, I believe, is already booked. So where do you see that one playing out? And then we'll just move on from that one.
All right, I'll come back to that one. We'll see how it goes because anything can happen in some of these ones beforehand if this ends up being
absolutely. But it is booked at the moment.
Yeah, you know, that's really that's a pick 'em in my mind. Both those guys are so game. They're so game. I mean, Sandhagen took a tough loss against Aljo.
Right.
But he came out so strong against Frankie Edgar, and Frankie Edgar is tough. He is tough, man.
Right. So I mean, he also beat Moraes recently, too. Moraes is quite the opponent in his own right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I agree. And if you go back, it just takes you a minute to remember what Dillashaw was doing because he hasn't been in the public eye there for a little bit. But Dillashaw was nasty.
Right.
And so be like, oh, that's because he was, you know, doping, you know, with the blood doping or whatever. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
I'm personally leaning towards Dillashaw myself. I think he's got enough in the tank. I believe that he had 2 years to train at his own speed and pace, not be rushed. I like Sandhagen a lot. I just don't think it's his time yet. But let's move on from that one. And what do you think about, should Sterling give up the belt now that he goes out for neck surgery after winning only by a DQ? He could be out for a long time, they're saying. I know Jan's calling for him to relinquish the belt. He might sit on it for over a year. I mean, can't blame the guy. But at the same time, if you're going to be out for that long, should he relinquish the belt right now? This way other guys can have it, and then he'll be the main contender when he comes back.
I'm trying to think what they've done in the past. I think they've always created an interim, correct?
Most of the time they create an interim, unless they love you, like they love Habib. They let him hold the belt until they were absolutely positive he wasn't going to give it up. But sometimes, look at John Jones, knew he wasn't going to come back. He could have held on to that belt, but he relinquished it knowing he was going to be out. Well, he knew he was going to move up to heavyweight and just did the right thing. Now, I don't know.
Well, an interim is not a total relinquishment.
No, it's not a relinquishment, but I understand that. But sometimes things happen. Ferguson had the interim belt, and then he couldn't fight, so they basically stripped him of it. It was a weird thing. Interim belts they work funny sometimes. They don't always work how they're supposed to.
Right.
Cody, Ferguson, just weird situation. I almost feel like, though, if you plan neck surgery this late, months after you already had the victory, and you're going to be out for that long, and you technically didn't win. He won, but he technically didn't win that fight. He should be forced to almost relinquish the belt, and then he will be first in line. In my opinion, I know it's not up to me, but that's how I see that one playing out. I think he should. Or he should have to rush back from that neck surgery, which nobody really wants to happen.
Yeah, my opinion on it is I don't really have a strong opinion on, but I lean towards the interim, that he shouldn't have to relinquish it, and that there's an interim. So if Yan wins the interim, then as soon as Sterling is ready to fight,
well, if it's an interim, technically they don't have to give that shot to Piotr Yan because he lost the belt technically. So I mean, it could be Dillashaw, Sandhagen
I think
for the interim.
Right, but I'm going to stipulate that then with – I'm not saying that Peter Yan should be offered that. I'm just saying if it ends up being Peter Yan with that interim belt when Sterling arrives, because if he's out for over a year, I mean, you could have Sandhagen and Dillashaw fight for the belt, and then the winner fight Yan, and then Yan could potentially win that fight and have it by the time Sterling returns.
Right, exactly. That's why it's kind of a weird situation.
Yeah, but I think regardless, in my mind, Sterling should keep the belt, have an interim, but then as soon as he returns, you know, with some type of stipulation, like if you get back from your neck surgery and you're like, wow, my neck does feel better, but I don't want to risk it, relinquish the belt.
Right.
If you're like, okay, I'm back, I'm training, I'm ready to fight again, then it's whoever has the interim versus me for the unified.
All right. So moving on from that one, both on different opinions on that one. Really, I'd like to hear what you think about Meisha Tate making the return after taking some time off. Doesn't have to make the return. She's making plenty of money. I believe she's the VP over at ONE FC. She announces over there. Does Tate have what it takes to potentially come back, win a fight, and challenge Amanda Nunes?
Come back and win a fight, possibly. Challenge Amanda Nunes? I do not think so.
You don't think she has what it takes to go in there as a savvy veteran and get maybe ground game, maybe find a weakness in Amanda Nunes? I'm not saying she even has a weakness. I mean, she's definitely impressed everyone as of recent. She just dominates in fashion. But Meisha definitely has an advantage over every other girl Amanda's fought, except for maybe Valentina. You don't think with this time off, able to study tape, able to watch more fights from an announcer's perspective, she has any shot of going in there and upsetting the champ?
Short answer, no.
All right. Well, we don't have to discuss it then. Short answer is no.
I'm not. You know, I don't have a crystal ball, so anything could happen. This is the fight game. But
right.
What do I think that's something that I'm excited about seeing? No, I'm not really excited about seeing it. I'm not too excited about any Nunes fight unless it's Valentina, the bullet, because that needs to be run back.
Yeah, most people believe that one.
I'm not excited about Nunes fight. You have to bill her with other good fights. Otherwise, it's a weak card because Nunes is so dominant.
Well, I'm going to give you my short answer on that one. I believe Tate can challenge Nunes. Do I think she can truly beat Nunes? Maybe not, but I think she can challenge her, give her a real fight. It won't be a 2-minute chokeout in the first round like we just saw. I believe we're going to see a really good fight, and I believe maybe we see an upset. I mean, Nunes is dominant. I'm not taking anything from her. She's unbelievable. She's proven me wrong time and time again. I picked Cyborg. She blew Cyborg out. Cyborg didn't want to rematch her. Obviously, pure power on Nunes' part. I saw Nunes get in the ring the other night with her wife and Dern and just looked like 10 times the size of them. I'm like,
yeah, she
wow.
Looks so much bigger than these
She
other
looks
girls.
just so powerful. No way would I bet against Nunes ever again. But
the one thing that gets everybody is Father Time. If you wait long enough, and if she wants to keep fighting for long enough, someone will get her just because
someone. But Tate's
really
not going to outlast her. Tate won't outlast her at all, though.
It's kind of like Anderson Silva back in the day. If is almost like
I don't think Time beat Anderson Silva. I think Anderson Silva beat Anderson Silva being threatened by the boos of the crowd. To be honest with you,
but I think it's a similar situation. What I was going to say is that I think it's a similar situation as far as when you're talking about, hey, you were wrong again. Anderson didn't lose. It's almost like trying to short Tesla. And it just didn't happen.
He was one of my favorites. All right, moving on from that topic, we have one more topic to cover today, and this one does not involve the UFC. Is Patricio Pitbull the greatest fighter to never step in the UFC octagon?
I think he's up there. I think Fedor is the greatest. I think another person worth mentioning on that is Kayla Harrison. There is no weight class for her over in the PFL.
Right.
Female fighter, she's a higher weight than what's offered in the UFC. And actually, the UFC is going to be even getting rid of the 145s here,
shrinking
correct?
down. Yeah, that's what they're moving. They could bring it back very quickly, how they did with 125-pound men. They were going to cut the phantom weight when Cejudo won, and then Davis and Figueiredo revived that division. I believe they should revive the 145 females. I believe they could go out and get some talent. Bellator actually has a lot of talent in that weight class. So, but yeah, they're looking to cut it as of now.
Yeah, so Kayla Harrison, I think, is worth noting, but hey, Pitbull's the real deal. Pitbull put out Chandler with the quickness, and Chandler's going for the belt. Even though I've already said I feel like the real belt match is McGregor versus Poirier. The winner of that, in my mind, should get the belt, but that's not how it is.
Right. You're also one of the few.
Chandler fight.
I believe you're one of the few who thinks it should be McGregor Poirier for the belt.
I say if you have those two matches though, and if you said to me, here's two matches we have set up: Dustin versus Conor and Charles versus Michael. Which one do you think's for the belt?
After Conor just lost, maybe the first time they could have tried it. The second time, I think it should be Dustin versus Gaechi, in my personal opinion. Dustin Gaechi, to me, seems like true belt contenders. I feel like they just want to put someone who hasn't lost to Habib as the champ right now. But that's how I see the belt should be Gaechi versus Poirier. They're both looking unbelievable. They've both been winning all their fights. They just ran into Habib, and Habib makes everyone look silly in the ring. Well,
I'm going to agree to disagree, not about the Habib part, because obviously Habib has done that.
Yeah,
that's
proven.
Hindsight is 20/20. That's already happened. Anyhow, I think Conor versus Dustin. Really
so how do you see Patricio then? You believe that he's tied?
The point being is really tying it into Pitbull.
Right.
Pitbull has a legitimate gripe to say, hey, look, if Chandler is up for the belt in your fighting league, and I smoked Chandler, even though it could happen the other way if Chandler fought Pitbull, it didn't though. The one fight that we're basing it off, Pitbull handily won that with a quickness.
Right.
And he's going to look over and he's already said to like Dana White or to the UFC saying, hey, your guys fight, this guy Chandler, who I smoked, is fighting for the belt. Now, if he wins the belt, now you even have more of a claim.
Right. A real big claim.
We'll talk about that matchup later. But as far as Pitbull's definitely one of the better fighters that has never fought in the UFC. And I hope they get him over here before he ages out. Don't pull like an Askren and wait too long.
I feel like they're going to wait too long because then they can't claim that they had him kind of deal. It's weird. Just like Askren. I believe they'll do that to him. They try to get them way later. Or Fedor, they try to claim Fedor lost one time when he was already like 25-0 against.
Fedor was an example of aging. He's an example of aging.
Right, exactly. I believe they'll do that because they didn't get him from the jump. That's why they took Chandler over him to try to whatever. But
another guy worth mentioning, by the way, is that never fought in the UFC that was, a legendary fighter, was Rickson Gracie as well.
So you got Pitbull tied here as the greatest never to get into the UFC. You got him tied. You see a few others.
No, I wouldn't put the EST on him, but I'd put him as one of the greater.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. It's a great point to highlight right there.
All right, perfect. All right, that's going to be it for today's show, TCG and Whiskey. Thank you, our guest Tom, and we will see you guys next week, potentially for breakdown of 2 different shows next week. Thank you. Have a good day.
Appreciate you, Mark.